Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to our very special exclusive program on organ donation on IQRA TV. Yes, indeed, the law is changing, 20th of May 2020. And in order for us to have a better understanding about when the law is going to change, I would like to once again invite Dr. Sharif. From your experience, you know that you have been doing organ donation events, like how today we were there at the Croydon Masjid. Do you feel that is it benefiting the community like the event that we had recently only today?
Yes, I think it is, because I think we're trying to give the community platform to discuss this topic. Most of the people we see anyway, and we've been doing survey and asking people before and after the event. For the last probably maybe 6-7 events we've done, and it did show really there is some changes, mainly positively.
I just want to clarify, because obviously, like most, there is the understanding that when the law changes, that your organ do not belong, you don't have ownership about it. Is that correct? Can you give the correct viewpoint about what does it mean?
Yeah, unfortunately there's some misconception. People think actually it's government is going to dictate everything, and no, this is not right. You still have, and your family after death still have the final say to decide whether to go ahead or not. And this is what's been done since 2015 in Wales, and this is going to happen as well in this country after May the 20th this year.
So Dr. Umar, I mean, what group of patients does the new law apply to? I mean, what category and type of patient will it apply to?
So it's easier to say which category of patients it doesn't apply to. So anyone under the age of 18 years old, so any child or any minor, it doesn't apply to. Okay. Anyone who lacks mental capacity, and anyone who hasn't lived within England for the last 12 months. So the law doesn't apply to that category of patients.
So you mean Brexit will have no impact on this?
I don't expect to.
Okay.
No. And anyone who's at Her Majesty's pleasure, for example, or incarcerated, the law would not apply to as well from that point.
So from your understanding, obviously, as you are a consultant,
yeah.
How many people actually are in a position to donate?
So if you look at all the deaths that occur within the country, only 1% of patients are actually in a position where they could possibly donate. So you have to be essentially on intensive care, on a ventilator, being maintained that way in order for us to proceed to donation and consider donation. Anyone who, for example, if I was to suddenly collapse and die here, I wouldn't be in a position to donate. So it's important to recognize that the vast majority of your viewers are more likely to actually need an organ rather than being in a position to donate.
So you are trying to say our lifestyle, we are very sickly. So the Asian community, BMA, so we are more likely, our organs are so in such a condition that is not even suitable to donate. That's what you're trying to say?
No, far from it.
Okay.
So we're always in position to donate if necessary, but our genetics and our ethnic background makes us more susceptible to certain conditions such as diabetes, such as chronic kidney disease, such that we'll end up requiring organs. So we probably we are more likely to actually need an organ rather than actually being in a position that we can actually donate an organ.
SubhanAllah, this is very, very scary, you know, that you are saying that our organs are, I mean...
Far from it, no, it's like actually being on intensive care, our chances are low.
So yes, Jazakallah for that clarification. So it's not necessarily means that when you are going to donate your organ, that your organ is even suitable for somebody to be an eligible recipient. It's a very stringent process that goes to see the match. Absolutely. So Jazakallah khairan for that clarification. So coming to Dr. Mansoor, you've heard what the specialists and the surgeons and the consultant have to say. Now you're in a position, if somebody comes to you as an imam, and you're not an ordinary imam because you are in Cardiff. So in 2015 in Wales, meaning that you have researched this topic very well before. We're only looking into it in 2020. You've already been receiving questions, and I'm sure some of the questions, if somebody comes to you and asks you, what about if I donate my organ on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, I'll be resurrected and I'll have no organ, so organless, what would you say?
Okay, Jazakumullah khair, very good question. But just before I answer that question, I just want to follow up on what Dr. Umar said. So there are people, you have to be suitable to donate. Okay. But also, one of the misconceptions that people have is that they think that if you do not opt out, then the government is going to take your whole body and everything. That's not true. As far as donation is concerned, there's two organs are categorized in two categories. One is called routine organs or routine transplants, and the other one is called novel and rare transplants. It's only the routine organs that will be taken if you don't opt out, which are the two kidneys, the two lungs, the liver, and so. Novel and rare organs such as nose, face, eyes, ears, genitalia, abdomens, and all of these things do not come under the law. So if somebody wants to donate those, it doesn't come automatically under the law. They have to consent. If they want to donate their organs for research or the body for research, it doesn't come automatically under the law. They will have to consent.
So what you are saying is mainly the kidneys and the liver and the routine organs.
Yeah.
So not every single
not
organ.
every organ. So
very important clarification.
That's a misconception. As far as would I be resurrected organless in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, I mean, this is a genuine question, and the question stems from many ayats of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الْيَوْمَ نَخْتِمُ عَلَى أَفْوَاهِهِمْ وَتُكَلِّمُنَا أَيْدِيهِمْ وَتَشْهَدُ أَرْجُلُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. That today Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will seal our mouths, and our organs, our feet, our hands will witness to what we have been doing. That's the reason why people ask this question. If I don't have a heart, or if I don't have a kidney, then how are they going to witness in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I normally say, well, actually it's good if they don't witness, because we've been doing lots of sins, so the less that we can expose.
And what about if somebody has no kidney and in Jannah, as you pointed out?
But more importantly, I think the question is that we believe in resurrection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Qiyamah, يَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَن لَن نَجْمَعَ عِظَامًا. Do people think that we're not going to be able to resurrect? But what is the actual nature of that resurrection? That is, the details of that is not mentioned in the Quran. Is it going to be this body? Is it going to be, because 2 months into the grave, we're all decomposed, we're all withered away and ramim, dust, right? So is it this body? Is it another body that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is the nature of that? We don't know. But what is very important is that resurrection itself and our organs witnessing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of judgment in itself defies the laws of physics. Then how can we basically be very scientific and say, if I give my organs away, then there's going to be nothing to witness? I mean, whose organs talk? So there's an incompatibility with what people are perceiving and the hereafter. The hereafter is all metaphysical. Do you understand? Do you think if somebody burns, and their bodies turn into a cinder, you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can't resurrect that? So I think it's a genuine question, but I think it's a misplaced question.
Yes, that was very important, and I'm going to, before I discuss about qada and qadar and taqdeer, let's go to our first caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, brother, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Nottingham, and my name is Arshad.
Nottingham, and your name is Arshad, mashallah. You sound like a doctor.
I am a doctor, that's right.
Okay, doctor, mashallah.
Arshad Latif.
Jazakallah khairan to Dr. Arshad Latif.
Yeah.
Okay, you seem to be well known among our panelists. So I think you have a very important question. Please go ahead.
Right, I mean, my question is mainly to Dr. Mansoor Ali, and it's an excellent program that's taking place at the moment. I wanted to know, because there is a division amongst Muslim scholars about beating heart donation and non-beating heart donation. Is there any provision in the opt-out system which you feel that if we had a special provision to say, right, okay, we will make sure that the organs will only be retrieved, catering for that particular group of individuals who believe that, organ donation before the heart stops is not permissible? Is that something that can be brought into, not the legislation, but perhaps made prominent that, those particular group of people can definitely opt in, provided that, their organs are only retrieved if the heart stops beating? My main question because there is a recent fatwa that came out, as you are aware. And the significant number of Muslims are, of course, hesitant to just sign to the opt-in, of course, hesitant to opt-in because of that particular fatwa. So I just wanted to hear Dr. Mansoor Ali's point of view on that.
So what we have a very important point that doctor has raised, and especially when it comes to the heart and the opt-in and opt-out. Now, I think he was alluding to retrieving the heart, especially. I think, can you clarify?
So just clarifying Dr. Latif's point. So we mentioned previously DBD or brainstem death and circulatory death. So what Dr. Latif was saying, is there any provision to specify that I only want only want my organs to be retrieved if my heart stops? So it's not brain death, it's circulatory death. So in the current mechanism and ongoing, you can actually register your thoughts from that point of view. You can also say, for example, I would want my kidneys to be donated, but I don't want my heart to be donated. And you can specify your wishes on even with the legislation that's going to be put into place.
So the confusion is I think, is it going to be morally or is it an ethical question? Because if you can just clarify it so that Dr. Mansoor can answer that, especially when it comes to retrieving the heart.
So the answer is that you can specify under current legislation as well as the legislation that's going to be implemented in 2020, in May of 20th of May, that what organs you want to be retrieved and what circumstances you can actually specify that, and that will be honoured.
Dr. Mansoor.
So Dr. Rashid Latif was referring to our colleague and friend Fatwa Mufti Muhammad. Am I allowed to mention names?
So yes, you had a great interview with Dr. Mufti Zubair Butt.
Yes.
So yes, you can go ahead.
So he was referring back to the fatwa of Mufti Muhammad Zubair Butt, which came out in June 2019. And in there, Mufti Muhammad Zubair Butt, he took a particular position, which is his research. I mean, he's been studying this topic for 20 years. And he came out with a position where it is haram to take organs from people who have been declared dead neurologically, from brain dead. So you're not allowed to take from brain dead because he believes that brain death is not Islamic death. So that's a position that he has taken, and it's a position that many ulama in the world, including Sheikh Muhammad Sa'id Ramadan al-Bouti, Mufti Jad al-Haq from Al-Azhar, Mufti of Al-Azhar gave a fatwa in 1979. They all
so can you clarify, when you say brain stem death or the brain is dead, does the heart still beat after the brain is dead?
So the person is on a machine. I mean, this is a medical question, but the person is very basically, the person is on a machine and the machine is keeping the heart and the breathing, going. If the machine is taken off, there's
the heart would not beat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is why. So now, because the heart is
So it's basically on ventilation.
Yeah, it's on ventilation.
It's not a life support machine then. Yes. Is it a life support machine or is it just a ventilator?
So the definition of life support and ventilator is interchangeable in the common public's perception. A ventilator keeps you alive because it keeps air going in and out. And if you stop that in that situation, then you wouldn't be breathing and your heart would most likely stop. So when you say life support and ventilator, they're interchangeable essentially. Yeah.
So basically, I mean, it's a philosophical position in the sense that either somebody is hooked up onto the life support machine and you can see them breathing and the blood is circulating, and then you say this person is not dead, or somebody says, well, he's already dead, it's just the machine, electrical impulses, and the machine is, So those are the two positions, and the ulama have taken those positions. Some have basically said that, like Sheikh Tantawi, he basically said that death, the diagnosis of death, it can only be done by doctors and not the public, and they are the ones who will decide when death occurs. The other position, like Mufti Muhammad Zubair Butt and Sheikh Bouti, rahimahullah.
I just want to point out to you that there's also Mufti Amjad from Bradford.
Yeah,
he has also another fatwa.
Yes.
And it's been also supported by lots of ulama.
Yes.
Even many from Wifaq ulama. So
yeah, I'm not
so
sure
now
if the ulama
I'm not sure if
understand
you've looked into.
Yeah, I've looked into all of these. I don't think the ulama really, because this is a very technical subject. But it just boils down to whether you think, so these ulama, like Sheikh Tantawi says that the diagnosis of death has to be left to specialists, right? Such as doctors. Boothi basically says, no, the diagnosis of death is has to be left to the common person. If the common person basically looks at someone, common as in general public, not common in the Marxist sense, if they look at somebody and they say he's dead, then this person is dead. So that's basically really it. It's a philosophical, ontological position.
So there have been cases where people had near-death experience, and they said they went to the other side and came back. Are you aware
No,
of
so this is, I mean, the doctors will say that, but let me just finish. We are talking about brain stem death. We're not talking about locked in. We're not talking about persistent vegetative state. There are different parts of the brain that dies. This is a very specific part where there is no evidence that people who have been declared independently have come back. But the doctors can tell you more.
So before I come to the doctor, I mean, I just wanted to bring in Sister Salwa. Sister Salwa, I mean, here we are speaking that, mashallah, Allah has given you, we're speaking about qada and qadar. Now, I'm just thinking about my own mother. She was a recipient of a kidney, and that's now in 2004. But now, obviously, I cannot, it wasn't in this country, so therefore, aftercare and all those other issues. But there's something I just wanted to add by saying, especially with the issue on qada and qadar, because when we say, وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ مَاذَا تَكْسِبُ غَدًا وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ بِأَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ, the soul doesn't know on which part of the land he is going to die. Now, Allah Ta'ala has blessed that obviously you have received and you're a recipient of a heart. And also, there are many who have received and they had the very same transplant as yourself, but the success was not like how Allah had blessed you. So this brings to mind that, sometimes obviously we take and do whatever we can. Every illness there, we look for the remedy, likulli da'in dawa'un. We do whatever we can to save a life, but the ultimate and end result, can we say, that we believe in qada and the divine decree of Almighty Allah Ta'ala, that even after being a recipient of an organ, the time when a person has to leave the world, that moment and that time is fixed. It can never change. So I just wanted to bring that hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to our attention, that when ensoulment takes place, then after the 40 days and the next 40, like when it reaches 140 days, there's different stages of the development of the human body, the fetus in the human body. And one important point, especially with this organ donation, because sometimes, mashallah, you see there is a success, like Sister Salwa. I had an uncle also in South Africa. He was a recipient of a heart, and that was in Cape Town, as we mentioned before, Dr. Barnard. But how long did he live? The first transplant, how long does a person live? What is the success rate? And it's very important, crucial, that even though a person may receive, for some people, he may live many, many years, and his quality of life may be really great. But for others, qadar of Allah, decree of Allah, that person, as we go back to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it has already been decreed 4 things. بِكَتْبِ رِزْقِهِ, his rizq, the life, the sustenance, وَأَجْلِهِ, the lifespan, وَعَمَلِهِ, his action, Sa'idun or Shaqiyun, whether he will be a happy person, from those people who will be from the inhabitants of Jannah, or he will be Shaqiyun, those that will be wretched. And that is why it's very important, especially even in this topic, to always accept and know that yes, indeed, sometimes we have to be grateful to Almighty Allah Ta'ala that yes, it can be successful, and on the other hand, there can be times and circumstances that even after everything, I just wanted even the clarification, because we have post-mortems and we have surgical, transplantation. What is the difference? Because now it's important to clarify this point. Most of the people who die, generally, we don't like, post-mortems. You ask the coroner and you will find families, they become very upset that we don't want our family, our member to have a post-mortem. Can you explain the difference between post-mortem and the procedure of organ retrieval of the organ?
I'm going to as well make a little comment on what you've said. Yes, the post-mortem, obviously, what happened. Normally, if there's a case, criminal case, or if there's some problems with the case, some suspicious death or what, this is done. Although I should admit, actually, recently, over the last probably maybe few years, there is some probably maybe alternative done, but there is some cost issue with using scan. for postmortem. Not all the cases, but this is actually started as pilot project in different cities. I'm just going to make a quick
Go ahead.
for the qadar, akhi. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked others to seek treatment. تداووا عباد الله فإن الله ما أنزل من داء إلا أنزل له دواء علمه من علمه وجهله من جهله. I mean, asking people to seek treatment, and there's no disease without any cure, whether he or she knows it or not. And this is indirectly asking people to seek, to research, to know what's the current treatment. And now the organ transplant is actually part of the recognized medical treatment in modern medicine.
So what you're saying, it's a medical treatment, end of life care?
It is, akhi, it is medical treatment. But we do accept people have a different fatwa. Let me just, if you don't mind, just my humble contribution on this. Some of the ulama, they try to, probably maybe they're very reserved on this because they don't want to open the door when there is misuse of this, and mainly on the subcontinent, as we discussed this afternoon in the event, because there's no regulation, there's no organ banking, there's no ways to prevent people from using them not in a medical medical way, and there's a blackmailing and this.
Yes. So what you are saying, it is very regulated.
It is very good in this country.
And there's no sale of organs. You cannot sell.
No.
Yes.
And in fact, harvesting the organ done in theater, in a proper operating theater, in the hospital, in a very dignified way, and the people will stitch it back, almost like having any operation. You can't even distinguish actually.
So Dr. Umar Aziz, do you concur with Dr. Sharif that the procedure is very, very precise?
Indeed, and one of the priorities.
Because I just want to bring this about the sacredness of the human body,
which I was going on to. One of the priorities as a clinician, as well as the team that I work with, is to keep the dignity of the patient that we're looking after, and that is the donor body. From that point of view, the utmost dignity is maintained throughout. We have specialist organ donation nurses who remain with that family, remain with that patient throughout the journey of organ retrieval, and one of their priorities, which they pride themselves on, is to maintain dignity and maintain the cultural sensitivities around that from that point of view. I would just like to mention what the Sheikh was mentioned previously in terms of brainstem death. Obviously, Sheikh has the expertise with respect to the ulama and the fatwas related to that, but it's important to appreciate and differentiate that from other brain injuries. So there's loads of information on the internet in terms of patients being in a deep coma, coming around, surviving. This is completely separate. This is brainstem death, and there's been no literature to indicate that a patient has recovered from that point of view. So it's important to differentiate.
Very good clarification. And yes, indeed, as we come to the closing of our second segment of this very important discussion on organ donation, after the break we will hope to open the lines, and so that you can raise your important questions. It just needs to be pointed out why there is so much of confusion, because we don't find a single verse in the Quran nor in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam specifically addressing organ donation. And as we have heard, the first organ donation was in, or was it 1925 or 1967?
The first discussion, or Muslim discussion, was in 1925 by Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Sa'adi. The first successful heart transplant was in 1967, but kidney transplant happened in 1945.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan. So after the break, we will continue the discussion. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.